Andy, what do you think? As the official global sponsor of the Olympic.
Official global sponsor of the Olympics. I would say I'm with Wilbur. I don't see any reason why things will change after the Olympics are over, except for maybe locally in Beijing, some of the frenzy of construction will slack off. So if you're leasing Caterpillar tractors or construction cranes in Beijing, you may want to get out now, for those of you in that business. Besides that, again, who knows, 2-3 years from now, sure. But I don't see there should be no drop off because the Olympics are over.
Great, thank you.
Can I add one thing,
Ronnie.
Clarence? I agree with the two gentlemen, but having said that, if China were to slow down, it would probably not be Olympic related. Mm-hmm. Rather, it can be anything else. Mm-hmm. It can be social unrest. It can be financial market contagion effect, which in 1997 did not hit China because China was not open enough at that time. But as China began to increasingly open to the rest of the world in its financial markets, then the contagion effect may be more affecting China. Mm-hmm. And the fact that China's social financial infrastructure is just not that healthy yet. Sure. I think it perhaps may be subject to some turbulence. But having said that, the balancing force is that it is not 100% free market. The government still has a lot of levers that it can use to control the situation. So whereas problems may be there, but also the means to deal with those problems perhaps is a little bit more than in the West also.
Great. Well, the comment you just made is a great time for me to segue into my next question is really what are the external factors that you believe might impact the growth of the Chinese economy? Wilbur?
Yeah, what I worry about is the protectionist monster starting to develop in this country and in Western Europe. There's mindless China bashing that's going on, people introducing legislation that they know is not even enforceable under WTO rules. Why? Just to pander to the voters. And I fear that as we get farther into the presidential election cycle, there may become more and more of that. And I think that's the greatest danger that China and other developing nations face right now is a return of the West to a kind, especially U.S., to a kind of isolationist mentality and a protectionist mentality.
Great, thank you. So the bilateral trade and multilateral trade will create some issue or the imbalance.
Well,
right now.
It could. Yeah. It could.
Andy, do you have anything that external factor that we'll worry about?
I would agree. That's probably the largest potential issue. That if the U.S. and China don't find a way to continue focusing on positive parts of the relationship versus negative ones, the IPR, the trade deficit. We can't keep the growth going. I always tell my Chinese friends and colleagues that the trade deficit is an issue not because it exists, but because it's been growing at such a rapid rate. It can't keep growing at that rate, which means something structurally has to change, and it will change. It'll either change very quickly or it'll change gradually, and I think we all would want it to change gradually in a positive, well thought out way, and that goes along with all of the issues between the U.S. and China. The WTO cases that just got filed, I can't comment on whether they're right or wrong, but what I try to say is that it's part of a maturing relationship. There's WTO cases between the U.S. and Europe. Why aren't there going to be cases between the U.S. and China? Don't get excited about it. Let's just sit down and talk and make our bridge to the changes we need to continue growing together. And if we can do that along all of these different issues we have and focus on positive areas like clean energy that are very important to us, the environment, growth in the aviation sector, student exchanges, language exchanges in English and Chinese, I think that's a big thing, and the mutual understanding, there should be a good way forward. If we don't do that and we focus on the negative, then it won't be a good way forward. So.
Great, thank you. Before we jump into the green China, Ronnie, is there any external factor? Earlier you talked about a lot of internal factors that you think might have an impact on the growth of China, but what are the external factors that you would worry about?
Well, there's two kinds of external factors. I suppose external to Beijing, you have the rest of China, but I think that you are talking about even beyond China. Internationally, I think what I worry about the most is a city that is a couple hundred miles south of here.
Right.
China is not the smartest people on earth, but they are very pragmatic. Politically, they're very pragmatic, and economically, you have to be pragmatic. So I don't fear so much that Beijing would do something stupid or crazy. But I do fear this country, which I think, Wilbur, you alluded to it, that besides protectionism, there are other issues. For example, when Chen Shui-bian of Taiwan came to power, I detected a clear shift in the US policy toward the Taiwan Strait situation. The strategic ambiguity that was practiced before became a lot less ambiguous. And it is those kind of things that are very, very dangerous. Thank God something happened, that is 911. If there's anything good about 911, I think only think of one. That is, it woke up Washington, D.C. That in many issues, including counterterrorism, you have to work with China. You cannot work without it. And so I think that really saved the U.S.-China relations. Of course, the fact that Chen Shui-bian began to go cuckoo really helped. But the fact that you can't tell that the guy is cuckoo is a problem. You should have recognized it long time ago. And why did America didn't recognize it? Because of the ideology of America. That is, that guy is popularly elected, which is true. But then eventually, subsequent events, I think, have shown America that, hey, we better reverse gear. And so I'm always worried that, be it in the trade area, in the Taiwan Strait area, or some other area, human rights, in many other areas, that Washington, D.C. can make a mistake, a miscalculation. Good intention, good ideals, but wrong thing for the wrong moment. And that's why the public education for organizations such as Committee of 100 is so important to properly educate our lawmakers. Obviously, we have to educate the other side too. Our job is not just one side.
Great.